You see a frog swimming in a pot on a stove. And all of a sudden, somebody comes up to the frog in the pot that's nice and cool in the water, and turns up the stove just a little bit. And it turns to its friend, another frog that's in there, and says, wow, it's gotten a little warm in here. And anyway, keeps swimming around. It's having a good time. And a few minutes later, somebody comes up to the stove and turns it up just a little bit. Frog says, wow, it's getting really warm in here, but we're going to hang out and see what happens. They're swimming, they're having a great time, and somebody comes up another time and turns up the stove just a little bit. I'm telling you, just a little bit. And now it's hot. This pot is hot. This frog and its other friend frog, they are hot, and they are uncomfortable. But heck, they're playing, they're wrestling around in that pot. They stay in, though. And somebody comes up just a few minutes later, turns up the stove, and these frogs are gone because they've been cooked. Thus is the power of incremental, imperceptible change. What you're being introduced to today is the fact that solutions are not political. However, they engage political circles. Solutions are not meant to be political, but when they're introduced, for some reason, they engage in such a large way, politics, that they're often deflected, resisted, attacked, and sometimes the people associated with them are not only attacked, but they are completely dismissed from society. The man that we've invited to the show today has been a health researcher for the last 30 years, at least. He is the author of Achieve Maximum Health, Flora, the missing link in immunity, health, and longevity. What he is about to introduce to us today is the fact that the health of the colon has been missed by the mainstream medical community and the alternative health industry. Please give a warm welcome to Mr. David Webster.
Good morning.
Good morning, and thank you for being with It's Rainmaking Time.
It's a pleasure.
I've asked you to be on the show today because there are so many infomercials and so much advertising, both in print, mainstream, and alternative media, that has to do with health, that the public is deluged with tremendous misinformation and buzz about every organ in their body, let alone the products that they purchase for them. And after reading your book, Achieve Maximum Health, it occurred to me that Katie Couric needs to know about this solution for the colon. And people don't necessarily have to die and be ill and be sick. I think what I'd like you to do for the public is introduce what does the colon do, why do we need to pay attention to it, and what is it that's the key that's been missed by the mainstream and alternative health industry?
Well, it's actually from birth. If we're breastfed, we have a protective coating in our colon, which is the first organ that's developed. Everything else is developed after the colon. And if the breast milk reaches the colon in the infant, it immediately starts to generate, every 20 minutes, it makes a duplication. So every 24 hours, we have trillions of bacteria, acidophilus type bacteria from mother. And the genetic code, of course, is perfect. So we have human-to-human bacteria that should survive a lifetime, and it does unless something destroys it. And there are 2 or 3 things that destroy it. Number one, we don't take care of it after we've got it. It's like planting seeds and have a wonderful lawn and then let it go to hell because we don't take care of it and the weeds come in. The big impact was in 1940 when antibiotics came along. That just wiped everything out, and no one thought at the time, what should we put back in?
When you say it wiped everything out, in the context of what?
In the colon. All the good bacteria were knocked out, because acidophilus is very sensitive to antibiotics, and antibiotics are nonspecific. Penicillin was working when it first came out because we hadn't been introduced to anything of that nature, so it actually helped us, and it's overpopulated the earth because it saved lives. So it's a good thing in the sense that it stops bacterial infection. But we've overused it, and we hear about it every once in a while we find in the paper or hear it on TV, what are we going to do? We're running out of antibiotics. We've got broad spectrum that don't seem to work in everybody. And the reason is because we've overused them. And what we ended up with was symptom complexes. We're being treated for symptom complexes generated from the colon by toxic bacteria that have taken over like weeds in the lawn. Now, we've got to eradicate those weeds and go back to where we were at birth and get this protection, or else we're going to die of degenerative disease conditions, because the bacteria byproducts are molecular toxic waste. It's no different than pollution in the air. We can die from that. There's people that have died, farmers, just working with their animals because of the ammonia and the scatol and the hydrogen sulfide gas. It's a killer. So the whole process is to replace the good bacteria that we've lost in order to support our immune system. The immune system is supported in the colon at birth with nature's laws, and until it's broken by some, either antibiotics or just not being educated enough to maintain it, well, then we're going to run into toxic bacteria overload. And the amount of bacteria that we're talking about here is 1/3 of the colon weight. The weight of the colon filled is 5 pounds, we'll say, and 1/3 of that is bacteria. So the impact is an incredible amount of toxic waste feeding back from the colon. It goes right up into the liver, actually. It goes up the portal vein. The blood goes into the liver, and the liver is the oil filter of the car. So if you can drive the car without a clean oil filter, let me know. It's impossible. When you go to a mechanic, he drains the oil. You go to a doctor, and he just puts more medication in the body, or the mechanic would just add some additives to clean the motor a little bit from outside and maybe a little bit inside, but still the oil filter is dirty because he didn't drain the oil. So the colon has to be relatively the same thing. It has to be redone, has to be drained, and then can be recharged one more time to protect our immune system.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you are tuning in, you are listening to It's Rainmaking Time, and we are talking with David Webster, who has been investigating and researching maximum health for 30 years. He's the author of Achieve Maximum Health, Flora, The Missing Link in Immunity, Health, and Longevity, and I'm Kim Greenhouse. Thank you for tuning in. David, for many years, people have been giving themselves enemas. People have been taking acidophilus after they have had series of antibiotics, and many of us have been thinking we're doing the right thing. So are you saying there's something else we're supposed to be doing, or have I not been doing the right thing?
Well, scientifically, there's no evidence at all from these acidophilus manufacturers. They can't come up with anything at all that it works. I'll tell you why it doesn't work. Nature's provided hydrochloric acid in our stomachs. If we didn't have this very strong hydrochloric acid, we wouldn't even have a human race. Everybody would never have lasted. We wouldn't have come out very long of the womb and stayed around, because there's just too much going on in the body for us to try to take acidophilus orally, because it's going to be destroyed. And even if it does get down, like some of the manufacturers claim, in the small intestine, for example, well, that's sterile. There's no scientific evidence there at all. I mean, let's just talk about the science of the thing. First of all, it's killed in the hydrochloric acid of the stomach. That's our first line of defense. The acid is very, very strong there. It's from 1 to 3. It goes maybe to 4 pH acid when it's during digestion of food. It might go to 4. Now, acidophilus dies at 4. So there's no way that it can get down there. If they try to enteric coat it and put it down in there, it'll go down through the sterilized stomach, and the few that make it will be transient, going through 12 to 14 feet of small intestine. Then it ends up on the right side where the appendix is. Now, if there's any good bacteria left, they're all going to be overwhelmed by the weeds in the garden, as I spoke earlier as an analogy, because they'll be the wrong environment. They can't germinate in an alkali pH. And that's what antibiotics and the failure of medicine to replace the good bacteria that we lost after birth, and we see all these symptom complexes we're being treated for, and medical costs going up and up.